one. Let's see if this works. I'm just waiting. And if not, please refresh the Patreon post. But I think we are live. I think it's working. Yay! That was sort of on a bit of a wing and a prayer. I just sort of kept refreshing, and then it just seemed to be really delayed with being able to connect. So that's good. We've done this for so long, and it's been long enough that I think you guys kind of know what to do when things aren't working. Like if you wait a couple of minutes, if the stream ends and it shuts down, just wait, and you're here for the live stream and you're part of the Patreon community, just wait a minute or two just to give me a chance, and I will refresh the Patreon link in the post, and the new live stream link will be there almost immediately. I just need a minute to like actually do it. So, and if you're part of the Slack channel, you can just go to the Slack channel and I'll post the link there. So it's not the end of the world. We work through it really quickly all the time, but you know, we haven't had a lot of technical difficulties over the last little while, touch wood and blue and all that stuff. But you know, when it does happen, just knowing what to do so that you don't miss the stream is really important. So really good to see everybody. Thank you so much for being here. It is Tuesday, July 19th. It is 2022, which is just insane. It has been a very busy month here at Wool & Spinning, and part of that is because we've just been, the kids have been really active. They've been doing lots of things. We've been doing soccer camps, and they're at a camp this week, which is kind of the camp every year that they look forward to. It's with some of their friends. It's in our church basement, but it's just one of those really lovely camps. They do all the food, so I don't have to pack anything. I don't have to worry about packing lunches and snacks. They do it all for us. And I always feel like it's sort of that 1 week a year where the kids have a blast, and it's just a really lovely week. And I generally take advantage and try to get as much done as I possibly can to get me into a really great place for the fall. So that's a really nice place to be in, a nice feeling. So welcome everybody. I hope that you are good and well and all of that fun stuff. I am just going back to the Patreon post because now that I know everything's working on YouTube, and I know you guys will tell me if it stops working, I can go back to my notes because I need my show notes. So I haven't been doing a whole lot, and then all of a sudden I was kind of looking around, and I was sort of like, I actually have some things done. Like I've actually got some things completed, and I've got some ideas percolating, and I've got some stuff happening. So that's been really kind of a nice feeling. What has taken the majority of my time the last couple of weeks has actually been building my birthday present that my husband gave me back in June. It was kind of a big birthday, and him and the kids gave me a 16 shaft Ashford table loom. So it's a 22-inch wide loom that Ashford makes, and I have been busy littling it. So and yes, I've been filming all of it as I've been building it, so I'll release it at hyper speed after, so that you guys don't have to see the hours of toil. I'm at that point now. I was telling the girls this morning in virtual spin group, I was telling them that I'm at that point now where I'm actually leveling and getting the shafts all to sort of sit in the right spot. And that's actually taking a long time to try to get them sort of where they need to be. James actually was helping me a little bit, which was really nice to have another pair of hands in there. And he's young. He's turning 10 on the weekend, a week today. And, well, not quite a week. He turns 10 on Sunday. And he was helping me and leveling it. And he really understands how they work and how the looms operate. And so he really understood about making sure that the tech solve was under a certain amount of tension and that they were at the same height on both sides. And like, he really gets it. So that was fun to have him helping me a little bit as well. If I am frozen, Dorothy, I'm not frozen at my end, so please refresh. Wait, hang on. Let me make sure. Please refresh, you guys. Yeah, so what else is happening around here? The kids have been playing a ton of soccer. I've been doing a little bit of project planning, which is really exciting, and we are getting super, super hot here in the sort of greater Vancouver area of British Columbia. So I know the Pacific Northwest just in general has been very slowly heating up. So today it's a high of like 32 or something. Tomorrow's 32. We're really getting hot. So we're finally sort of getting, after a really wet, cold spring, we're getting a bit warmer. I have to admit, I'll take the wet, cold, damp over the really super hot, just because I find it really hard to be out in it. I get so badly burned. However, it made me go into my sweater stash, because I have 2 sweaters that are perfect layering pieces when the air conditioning is blasting and it's hot outside and you're going in and out of like, you know, ice cold air conditioning to hot outside, and you're constantly like pulling things on and off. So this morning in virtual spin group, I was able to join. Glenda's been gracious enough to take that over for me. And we were talking about The Poet by Nordland. And I said to the group, I was like, yeah, I never really wore mine. It ended up being a bit too small, blah, 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 blah. It's a little bit too tight. I like my stuff with a bit more positive ease. And Eve was like, oh, I'll take it off your hands and I'll pay you for it and let me know. So afterwards, I was like, I've been really trying to clear out. So I was like, you know, I really should try it on and just see. Because when I put it on before, it just felt really tight and it didn't feel great. So I put it on. It fits perfectly. I don't know what I was thinking about. So this is The Poet by Nordland. And many people in our community have knit it. Glenda's working on a sample knit right now of it. And that's really great. And then the other sweater that I always pull out when that's very similar to this, that is that layering piece, and I wore it a little bit back in the fall, was what's it called? Hannah gifted me the pattern. Oh my goodness, now that I've got it on the tip of my tongue, I can't remember what it's actually called. It's lace on the front and the back. Enchanté. Sorry, you guys. It's called Enchanté. It's lace all the way down. I think it's a stockinette back, if my memory serves. It's a drop shoulder, and it's got all that lace. And I did that out of my Beaumont and Wakaya, i.e. alpaca, my 50-50 Beaumont alpaca blend. And I left it undyed in just cream, and it's this lace sort of all over patterning. I heavily modified the pattern. I'm not sure that that was the right thing to do, but you know, like this sweater, it's just a really good layering piece. And then if you have a tank top underneath, you can, you know, don and doff, which is really nice. So I'm sorry, Eve, but you can't have my sweater after all. Yeah, she says, fine then, keep it, cry face. Sorry. So welcome everybody. Carly is here and Julie. I've got Carol, Martha, Dagmar, Glenda's here, Amanda, Dion, Vicky is here, Charlotte, Amanda, Dana, Christine. It's good to see you guys. Tori is here. Florence is here. Oh my goodness, Florence, what time is it? Because she's in New Zealand. Malin is here. Yeah, let me know what time it is, Florence. Sam is here, Dorothy, Sarah. So good to see everybody. I'm sure I missed a whole bunch of people. One of our other Christines is here. Max is here. Becca is here. It's so good to see you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. So a couple of announcements just before we get into the show. Spindle Spun Stitches, or Spindle Spun Summer, is ongoing. We'll talk about it some more when we get to community participation. That is running from the summer solstice through to the eve of the fall equinox. So make sure that you're submitting photos and sharing what you're doing on your spindles. This is an opportunity to sort of celebrate all things spindle, whether it's support spindles or drop spindles. So please share your photos. There is a thread for that in the Ravelry group if you are not a part of the Slack channel. And if you are a part of the Slack channel, it's under hashtag Spindle Spun Stitches. So just share, and I'll put together some prizes and stuff to give away towards the end of that. The other thing that's going on, and we don't have a formal team this year. I just couldn't get it all organized and couldn't get my butt in gear. Sorry, you guys. But we have Tour de Fleece going right now. So while we don't have a formal team, under the hashtag general in the Slack channel, people have been sharing what they've been working on. It's kind of lit up that channel, which is already very busy. And people have just been sharing so much. And there was a couple of suggestions to actually have a separate Tour de Fleece channel like we've done in the past. In the end, I decided not to, because people who don't necessarily know how to navigate Slack as easily, maybe they haven't used it as much, or are just getting started with Slack, it's really hard to then say, and go find another channel. We have a lot of channels, and Tour de Fleece only runs for like 3 weeks. So the hashtag general channel, which is the one that you come into when you join Slack, kind of blows up for a few weeks, and then it's kind of back to normal, which is still very busy, don't get me wrong. But I've found that, you know, once Tour de Fleece ends, that in the past that channel just dies, and then I end up having to archive it. So instead of having a bunch of different places for people to have to post and to find and blah blah blah, let's just keep it simple, throw it all in there, and it's really fun seeing what everybody's doing. So there's also a few people that have started to work on their breed and color study, their Hill Radnor, sorry. And for that, you do need to find a separate channel on the Slack channel, and that's under hashtag breed color studies. And you can find that when you go to search the channels. So do have a look at that. And I have been intending and meaning to do a sort of overview of Slack, and so that you guys have a tool to be able to watch to sort of get yourselves going for those who aren't used to using Slack. I just haven't had a chance. So I will do that at some point. All right. We also have, Eve has been wondering about Tour de Femme. That one is starting on, she just texted me, July 21st. And that's the women's sort of equivalent of Tour de France. I am happy for you guys to do Tour de Femme. I'm not going to do like a separate Ravelry channel or a team or anything like that. But anybody who wants to participate in that, please go ahead. And I'm happy to have like Eve, you know, if you want to sort of informally host that, please go ahead. All right, what else do we have? So in the show today, I have a little bit of project planning here for you, a little bit of spindle spun stitches. I've just been, you know, trucking away on my Cormo, and a little bit of swatching, which I was really hoping to get done for today, and I did get it finished. And I also spun up a skein of yarn, which was sort of by some amazing feat. I'm not sure how I did it, but we'll talk a little bit about this blend because it's an interesting one. And I'm not sure that I would want to spin this particular blend again personally, but it was interesting nonetheless. So that's enough. And then toward the end, we will do community participation, which is quite long this month. I hope my voice holds out, and but I've got some really inspirational stuff to share with you. And then of course next show we'll have even more to share with you, because we'll have all the sort of culmination of Tour de Fleece. I might have to do a separate podcast that's like recorded separately just to like celebrate, you know, the thing that is Tour de Fleece. It's pretty insane. Tour de Femme is the 24th to the 31st. Sorry, you guys. Thank you for that. I think I said the 21st. It's the 24th. I actually knew that. I just said the wrong thing. So thank you for catching that. I think that's it sort of for like the overview. And so without further ado, let's get into the show. So I have my basket here of all of the things that I've been sort of working on and dragging this thing around. And so I was sort of looking down at it as the intro credits were running, and I was sort of like, you know, it's actually quite a bit of spinning over the last number of months. I finished the organic Polworth, which we'll talk about in a moment. And so all of that 1.233, it was some weird number, pounds is completely spun. So we'll talk about that in a second, because there's some sampling and swatching. So in terms of my spinning, I have been continuing to drag around my spindles. And this is sort of what I've been able to finish since our last show. So I took a page out of my friend Diana Twiss's book, and I've been sort of choosing 1 or 2 spindles that I want to work with at a time, and then carrying those around with me. And when I get a chance, I pull them out and I work on them. So this is my Silly Salmon. It's one of my most favorite spindles, and it's all of the, this is all that carded Cormo that my friend Liz did for me at Kingdom Fleece and Fiber down in Vermont. So I've been spinning this along. It's lovely to work with. The cop is building up really, really nicely. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy, nothing to complain about there. So just a really, continuing to be a really smooth spin. The spindle has a really long spin time. So as I'm spinning, I can, you know, sort of just let the spindle go as I draft out, and it just sort of, you know, results in this really lovely long spin. I can work on the singles as I'm sort of drafting out, making sure they're twist locked, and then, you know, winding on. Like, it's just so fast. I can make, you know, 4 or 5 makes on my temporary cop, and then of course wind them on, butterfly it off, and then wind it on to the permanent cop. And it just seems like this spindle just, it's just quick. It's smooth, it's quick, it goes really nicely. This little bit of fiber, you know, I can probably, you know, spin it and sort of have this finished, you know, in a few more makes, probably 4 or 5 more makes, and then I'm kind of on to the next little bunch of fiber. So lovely, lovely experience. This, on the other hand, has not been quite so lovely. So this is my Woodland Handcrafts. What my primary sort of complaint about it is that the shaft of the spindle, it's just so slippery. And I had roughed it up with a little bit of sandpaper, but I think I need to do it again. And the spindle itself has a lovely, I should do that with my other hand. It has a lovely spin on it. You can see it's wobbling because this isn't on properly. But, you know, I was really conscious with this one about really building up a really tight, firm cop, building it up sort of approximately here on the spindle, and keeping it, you know, really tight and firm, and so on and so forth. And as I was spinning and as I was loading it up, and as the cop was getting more and more firm, and I wasn't winding it on tight, but like, you know, firmly. And the cop was building up beautifully. It just slowly started to lift up, and it just started to lift up off this part of the spindle. And sure enough, as that started to happen, the cop started to spread, and it became longer and longer and longer, and sort of almost more like a cocoon shape. And sure enough, I pulled it out of my bag when I was at work the other day to work on it a little bit. And sure enough, as soon as I pulled it out of the bag from, it was laying in my bag like this. I have a little cloth bag that my mom made that my spindles sit in. And this one's it's a wee bit too long for it, but it still fits. And it was laying in the bag like this, and I reached in and I pulled it out like from, it was laying like this, sorry, and I pulled it out from the whirl end, and this just right off. And you can even see this is moving, like it just went right off. So I put it back on the shaft mostly to show you guys. It's not through the middle, like it collapsed right away inside, and I knew that once I threw the shaft back through, it wouldn't sort of, it's all tangled inside. Anyhow, I'm hoping that I can still wind this off. I left it just so that I could show you guys. I'll load it into my very expensive, very exquisite, luxurious Lazy Kate, i.e. my plastic basket from the dollar store, and see if I can wind this off as best as I can. Thankfully, at the time, I didn't have a second cop where I had the permanent cop and then the temporary. I had wound it. I had finished off a 4th or 5th make. I find 4 or 5 are sort of the right amount of makes for the temporary cop. I had butterflied it off and wound it back onto the spindle, expecting to be able to continue to spin. And I think I ended up having to put it away for some reason. Well, I did obviously put it away, but there's a reason that I didn't end up making some more and starting the temporary cop, which in some ways was a blessing because it meant that at least everything was wound in one cop. So I'll try to get this off and try to preserve all of this spinning, but super frustrating. So I'm going to rough this up some more and see if that'll help. Yeah, this is the 4th time this has happened, and I've tried to wind sort of slightly tighter. I've tried longer. I've tried to really get them to bell out. Every single time the cop lifts up, every single time. So if anybody has a fix, that would be wonderful. Malin, a make, that's a great question. A make, this would be a make. So I'm starting out, I'm doing my make. This is a make. So this is sort of about right. My arm is sort of about as extended as I want it to be. And now I'm going to wind on. That is a make. And then, you know, I go back and do it again and spin the next section of singles. So this would be the second make. So that's, you know, 2 makes. It's nice and twist locked. Add a little bit more twist. That's my second make. And then I go on to a third one. So each of those is a make. Maybe slide it off onto a drinking straw and then put it on a, yeah, you know what, Christine, that's a great idea, except that, and I think I'll do that next time. The problem is it's already slid off. So it's already collapsed inside. So the singles have already, like I've already lost that tube. But that's a great idea, Christine, for like future, for getting singles off of a spindle. That's a great idea. But yeah, it's too late for that. It's already collapsed inside. So just kind of disappointing, you know? All right. Oh, softball drop off. Welcome, Rebecca. That's awesome. Yeah. Oh, good, Malin. I'm glad I was able to answer your question. Wonderful. So that's the Cormo. My goal is to get this all spun. I'll show you how much fiber. I think I showed you guys last time, but I was able to wind off even more in the last 2 weeks. So I'm getting down, like it's getting there. I have one more bit of fiber in my spindle bag that's ready to go next, and then I'll be able to dip back into this and just keep making, you know, that's pretty good. From a pound, I'm down to however much of this Cormo left. So it's getting exciting. My goal was to have it spun for like by the end of the year. So I'm getting there. I don't know if I'll actually have it done by December. Last show, I think I said that I would have it done for sure and probably by the fall, but I'm not really sure. I don't know. You know, maybe, hopefully, that's the goal, but I guess we'll see. We'll see. So the next thing that I was working on, I had at the beginning of the year, I had sort of looked at my stash just in general terms and really felt that I was sort of ending up with all of these braids of fiber and all these different colors and stuff that I had amassed over the years and collected over the years that were just sort of starting, more and more of it. It was just stashed. I wasn't looking at it. I wasn't sort of working with it. And it was stuff that I had bought because I felt excited about it. And I decided that I really wanted to make a really good dent into that, almost kind of like a spin the bin sort of a thing. And I haven't done spin the bin since 2018 or 2017. I finished it 1 year where I spun everything that I set out to spin. So I sort of thought, okay, if I just choose a few braids to start with and I'll spin those up, and then I'll choose a couple more and I'll spin those up, and it'll just kind of pull me through and get some of this stuff spun, and this stuff that I was really excited about. So I spun Hearth by Sweet Georgia, Tofino Road Trip by Sweet Georgia. I did the Elfin Wool, Elfin Wool is what we're going to talk about today. I did the Northbound Knitting, those 2 braids. So that was 6 braids that were done already. And then what else did I do? I did the Elfin Wool. I did the two skeins of Hello Yarn. So I did, that was 8. And then I did the one of the sheep spot, that was 9. And I think that was it. That was all. 9 braids spun in the first half of the year. That's a lot. Spin the bin is usually only 12, so 1 per month. So I ended up finishing off those 9 braids, and granted, most of it was singles, but still. So the Hello Yarn, those 2 were singles. The 2 Northbound Knitting, they were both singles, but like the Sweet Georgia Silk Puff and the Tofino Road Trip, those were both very fine 2 and 3 plies. So that's a lot of spinning. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 skeins, plus the sheep spot, which was the white-faced woodland, and it was a very fine 2 ply. So it's a lot of spinning. Anyhow, so I finished those 9, and so then I went back into my stash. It's like, okay, what are the next 2 that I want to spin and want to do? And so I decided to go into my stash and find 2 braids of elfin wool that's by Tina. Now, I don't know what Tina's doing, where she's at, if she's still dying. I'm not sure. She's based in Germany. She's right in Berlin. I don't know what's ever happened to her. I had these 2 braids from her from like a number of years ago. I wish I had written the date. But I had bought them a long time ago. And when you search her Ravelry address, sorry, her Etsy address, elfinwool.etsy.com, I can't find anything. So let me know if anybody knows what she's doing. Dion, you're absolutely right. Singles counts. The braid is gone. I mean, in terms of like the speed, because you guys know, like spinning singles is really fast. But yes, you're right. It totally still counts. So this, I had 2 braids of elfin wool from Tina. So this was the first one. This was called Foggy Morning, and she called it Corriedale Rose. So it was 50% wool, 50% rosenfaser, which is basically just viscose. It's just nylon. So when I bought this, I think I had thought that the rose, Corriedale Rose, that it was rose fiber, but it's not. It was viscose. It was just acrylic. It was sort of like a faux, like faux cashmere, but it's actually microfiber, that kind of a thing. But that's okay. So it's 50-50. Now, this has been in my stash for quite a number of years. Like I think probably upwards of maybe 5 years, maybe even a bit longer. And I don't know if you can see from the photo, maybe if you look really, really closely, the braid is a bit beaten up. And I don't know if it was from the dyeing process. It's not superwash Corriedale. It was real Corriedale. It was a little bit matted, fold in places. It didn't pre-draft very nicely. So I just thought, you know what, I'm just going to spin it. I'm not going to worry about whether it's fine enough or whether it's, pre-drafted beautifully or whether the prep is perfect. I'm not going to re-prep it. I'm just going to strip it down and I'm just going to spin it. So I think I stripped it down into like 4 or I can't even remember, maybe 8 bundles, eight strips. And I spun to 2 bobbins, and with I actually spun to 1 bobbin and put a piece of fiber in between to delineate the 2 singles. That did not go so well. So one of the first half of the singles had a significantly more amount of yarn. So I ended up having to apply the final third of the yarn from a center pole ball, but that was fine, whatever. It wasn't perfect. I did no pre-planning. I didn't worry about whether or not this was going to come out perfectly. I was just so not concerned. And what resulted was 550 yards of this Corriedale acrylic rosenfaser fiber. In terms of spinning, it's been kind of interesting. I'm just waiting for the camera to go. Did I tell you guys that James changed all the settings on the camera? And I was very, very mad at him. And he, there we go. Yeah, he changed all the settings on this camera. He wanted to film himself. He wanted to film his Lego train going on its track, like from a first person kind of view. So like, you imagine that you're the train and you're going around on this Lego track. It was actually very, very cool. But I told him he could borrow my camera if he didn't touch any of the buttons. So guess what he did? There's buttons, I'm gonna push them and I'm 9 and I don't know what I'm doing. So he did something. Anyways, side note. So it's funny because Dion said it immediately. It has so much sheen. The sheen on this is unbelievable. Like this is even more than you would see on silk. It's almost kind of bordering on fake, the amount of sheen. And it has like a bit of it feels like acrylic. Does that make sense? When you run your hands along it, it actually feels a bit tacky, like a bit like you would feel on a silk yarn, or sorry, on a acrylic yarn, like in the store. Like if you were touching it, it doesn't feel like wool per se, but it's got good bulk. It pops back right away. Sorry, the camera's going to take a few minutes to come back. And it's sort of interesting how that happens, because it's sort of some of there's some of those, what am I trying to say? It has some of the characteristics of wool because of that 50% blend, but the wool really takes a back seat and it ends up feeling more like an acrylic, which is really, really interesting. But yeah, the sheen is unbelievable. It's very lightly colored. It's actually a really pretty yarn, but it is quite inconsistent for me. There's thicker bits that spun up a bit thicker. There's places that it spun up really thin, and it's just the prep and just not being able to get a really, really super nice draft going. As I was spinning, like I could even feel my distance of draft was changing a little bit based on sort of the sort of fold nature of the fiber. I think if I were to spin this again, knowing what I know now, which I'm not planning on, but still, I would actually take this. The colors are so muted anyhow, and are so quiet and so sort of almost not jewel tone, almost pastel. I would almost be tempted just to throw this on the drum carder and create a gray. You know, just blend it all up, open it all up, get really nice air in there, kind of get it all nicely blended, and just kind of, you know, lose the nuances of the color, lose the blue, lose the pink, lose the gold, and just get it all opened up and kind of create like a gray. The gold and the blue would combine to create like a bit of an optically mixed green. You'd lose some of that pink, but you know, it would still be really pretty is what I'm saying. I also have not washed this, so I will report back after I have washed it. It'll be dry in a couple of hours because of how hot it is this week, and I'll report back. It won't be machine washable, Rebecca, because Sam already made fun of me for saying this, but it's not superwash. It's real. It's real Corriedale. So yeah, I know. I never know. It's how to sort of describe that. So, and it's also really neat to see sort of, this is the yarn after the fact. And, you know, to see sort of how the colors came out, because I kept spinning just, I stripped it down lengthwise and I just spun one strip after the other. And it actually did quite a good job of keeping the colors together. But then you can see the original braid here. Those colors are just a little bit cleaner. They're a little bit brighter versus sort of what the braid looks like now, which is really muted, very soft. And, you know, so that's sort of the before and after, which is kind of fun to see. And just see how the colors work up like that. Really fun. Thank you, Max. He says it's gorgeous. Thank you. If it is inconsistent, you simply cannot use it. Send it my way. Totally, Max. I have so many skeins like this where you know, it's funny. I have learned over the years, I don't know if anybody else has found this, but the more I micromanage my skeins, the more I'm like, it has to be perfect, the less I enjoy spinning. Duh. And it's funny because with a lot of stuff, I'm kind of at that point now where it's just, it'll be what it'll be. And it'll get used in something at some point. You know, I could see this being used in a beautiful, you know, something, a small woven piece, a shawl. You know, this would actually be really good for a shawl, to be honest. Yeah, it would be great. All right, that is that. The other thing, and so going on with my spin the bin kind of thing, the next one that I had from my stash was this one, and I didn't put in at the bottom there, I didn't put in what the type of fiber was because I wasn't actually sure. So it's a 60-20-20 Shetland viscous banana fiber. Tussa. So that's what this one is. It's a really interesting blend of the three. And this one is called At the Old Mill. And I don't know how to say that in German. Der alten Müll. My husband said to me, I already told the girls this morning. My husband texted me the other day and he's like, I've learned how to speak Belgium. And I was like, I don't think that's a thing, but okay. He was ordering a soccer jersey, a football jersey off of the Club Bruges website for my son and for his birthday on Sunday. And he's like, I've learned how to speak another language. I was like, And he's like, they've charged our credit card. I totally did it. I was like, we'll see if it shows up. So with this one, there's nothing really much to share with you, but this is sort of the second braid of these two braids that I'm working on right now. So what I've done with this one is I've just stripped it down into these little tiny, I divided it in three lengthwise. So I divided it in three. This is the third one. I've divided it. And then I'm taking each of these bundles and I'm just dividing them down even further. And what I've done with these, or what I will do with these, I already did the ones here, is I have gone to the trouble with this one to go all the way along and pre-draft it really, really nicely. Just to see what the difference is. The other one, I just could not get it to pre-draft at all to save its life. But with this one, it's pre-drafting really nicely. So we'll see how these turn out. I'm thinking with this one that it'll be a blended 3-ply, mostly just because that's one of my favorite yarns besides singles. And I'll just take my time spinning this, because the other thing that I'm working on right now is our breeding color study and is the Hill Radnor. So this will kind of be next up, and that'll give me 11 braids spun for the year once I finish this one. And then I need to do one more. Bare minimum, I have to do one more after this. So that's not bad, hey? Oh, Dagmar, thank you so much. Okay, so Tina, she has a YouTube channel where she posted 9 days ago, and she seems to have changed her interest and is a travel blogger now. That is so cool, especially in the middle of COVID. I wonder if she's vlogging about places like around where she, like in that area. I'll have to check it out. Germany has a very special place in my heart. Actually, Belgium does too. And so does the Netherlands. My husband and I met in Munich. I know many of you know that, but for those who are newer to the show, my husband and I literally met on the street in Munich, and we got talking because we were both Canadian. Like, what are the chances? So I think we've talked about it since, obviously, because we've been together now for 16 and a half years. We are celebrating our 15th wedding anniversary in August. I think we were both really open to the possibility of meeting somebody, and that's why we ended up together. Like, I think we were just at that life stage where we were just really open to the possibility that we might meet someone, or that we could meet somebody, and that would like work for each of us. And that's why after we met, we both kind of put in that little bit of extra effort to get to know each other after we had that initial meeting, and we were both back in Canada. He's from Toronto. And so, yeah, it's kind of interesting, because I think if one of us had been at that place where it's like, oh yeah, he was great, but I'm traveling, I'm doing my own thing, it wouldn't have been enough to kind of put us in the same place to meet again, if that makes sense. Because I happened to be going to Toronto 6 months later, and so we both made the effort to make sure that we could meet again, which is kind of interesting. And that was what cinched it. So yeah, side note, sorry you guys. So this will be the 11th braid, and then I'll have to pick another one from my stash to spin up. So that is it. All right, so in the interest of stash diving and finding things, shopping from our stash, turning over my stash, trying to get through some of this stuff, I found this. So this is about 8 ounces. I think it's 8 ounces in total. Yes, 200 grams. So it's actually a little bit shy of 8 ounces. 200 grams of baby doll Southdown and silk. It's 85.15. And this was a blend that my friend Catherine of Small Bird Workshop put together. And I had seen it on the website. I was really, really curious about it. And I decided to sort of take a leap of faith and to purchase it. And this was probably right at the beginning of pandemic times. And I ended up stashing it along with quite a few other things from her that I just sort of got a bit overwhelmed with. Kind of ended up with a lot of fiber right at the beginning of COVID. And I thought I would have all this time to spin. We were all at home. I thought I would be able to make a ton of stuff. And then there's that whole problem of everybody being home and having to homeschool and still run the home and, all that. So I didn't kind of get as much done as I could. So this got stashed. But when I was looking through my stash for the elfin wool braids, I came across this, the baby doll Southdown. I put a comma between baby doll and Southdown. I'm going to fix that because it's really bothering me. It's not baby doll and Southdown. It's baby doll Southdown. So let me fix that. There we go. Anyhow, I saw it in my stash and I was like, I wonder. I spun, and I'll take it off of this camera in just a minute. I'll go to the big camera so that you can see. But at the beginning of the pandemic, back to pandemic times, I spun up this. Now, this is about 800 yards of 2-ply Falkland from West Coast Color, which is my friend Lynn Anderson's company, and she's up in Tappan, British Columbia. And I have been sitting on this for quite a while, and I just loved it. I spun it when Rebecca was here down from Rankin Inlet, and I had started it. I also spun up this when she was here. We did a lot of spinning because everything was locked down, so we couldn't really do as much as we thought that we were going to be able to do. We couldn't go to Fibers West. There was a whole bunch of stuff, and I spun this as well. This is also Falkland, and this is also from Lynn of West Coast Color, and she called this, I'll never forget it, because I'll never forget standing in my friend Anne's house with Rebecca, and Rebecca was picking out colors and picking out fiber and stuff, and then I saw this blue, and it really is the color that you're seeing on the monitor. Like, that's actually really, really true to color, which is really unusual for this color of blue. Anyways, this is supposed to be Pantone blue, and Lynn was having trouble getting the right blue, and so by the time she dyed these braids, there was like one bundle of it, and that was all she had of this particular color. By the end of it, she was so frustrated with trying to get the right color of Pantone that she was looking for. She was calling it effing Pantone, and so that's what this colorway is called. And she's never been able to recreate it as effing Pantone. So obviously she used the proper word, but I don't want to swear on the podcast. And I don't use that type of language usually, so it would be weird. But yeah, it was so funny. And I bought this at the same time. And I just remember her standing there. She was so frustrated. We weren't sure what everything was going to look like for her and I, because she was still working, and we're both obviously critical care nurses, and I was getting inundated with emails. It was this whole thing. And she's like, effing Pantone. So it is so tricky. You're right, Becca. I love that blue too. Anyways, I haven't used either of these yarns, and my plan, and I was starting to actually feel a little bit inspired again. I've been really in a knitting funk and really not feeling particularly inspired lately. And I don't have anything on the needles right now. I just haven't felt a lot of knitting mojo recently. It's not because I don't not like knitting anymore. I just haven't felt really inspired by it. And I've been working a lot with my support spindles. So, you can't kind of do both at the same time, right? Anyhow, I pulled these two out, and Dana had recently shared her finished Metamorphic sweater by Andrea Mowry. And I thought, you know what? If I could find a background gray, that would just really, I really want to do something with this yarn, and that would really help. So I'm going to check the yardage of this, and I'll check the yardage. I was hoping to have it sampled today for the show, but I just didn't get it done. I'm hoping that if I can spin up enough of this for the background gray color, that I can put these two together, and that I would have enough for the sweater. So that's my plan, and that's the Metamorphic by Andrea Mowry. And actually, I think I have it in my queue on Ravelry. Let me see if I do. I have the Junction sweater queued as well. And the Junction sweater, I was really hoping that I could find a yarn to be able to hold for the color, for the main color of that. Because when we were at Knit City last year with my friend Kelly, who's part of our community, her friend was with us, and she had knit the Junction sweater. The Junction is this one for those who are interested. She had knit the color section with her in the yoke. She had knit that with her hand spun, and then the main color, she had used a commercial yarn. And I sort of thought, like, what a great idea, just to stash bust some of these really, really bright colored braids in our stash that I'm sort of starting to feel are kind of amassing themselves a little bit. There's just too much of them. The nice thing about the Metamorphic sweater too is that it's sport weight, which is what I spun this to. This is about 14 wraps per inch, so it's a little bit finer than is called for in the pattern, but I always have a lot of trouble finding gauge with Andrea's patterns. I think we knit a little bit differently. Well, we must, because I always have trouble with the gauge. So I thought if I can sample a little bit of this, do a gauge swatch, and then decide from there if I need to talk to Catherine about getting some more of this, because she did have some recently in her shop. But in terms of the yardage, it's not too bad. So for the size that I would want, with the ease that I would want, that's size 2. For the main color, you need about 685 yards of the main color. And then for the contrast color, you only need 400. So I could even reverse them and use this one for the color, or sorry, for the main color, and this one for the contrast color. So I could actually flip them. I hadn't actually thought about that until now. That's very smart. So if anybody's done that, please let me know. I would love to know. So that's a little bit of project planning. I feel excited about it. For the first time in a while, I sort of have something to look forward to and something exciting going on in the background, which is kind of nice, because it's been a while. It's been a while. All right, so that is that. Put that with my fiber here. I've got it all draped across the back of my chair here, because I need to sample with it. So I want to keep it close and annoyingly close, like right here, so that I think about it all the time. The last thing that I wanted to share with you guys, that sort of projects and things in progress, is this little wee swatch here. It's a little wee thing. I'm a little bit disappointed by this, to be totally honest. So let's talk about this in just a sec. But I finished spinning all of the singles from that organic Polworth, and I feel like I'm missing a skein here. I feel like there should be a fourth big one. Maybe it's in the other room. I was looking to see if I could see it. I feel like there should be one more, but maybe I'm wrong. So this is if they are all here, this is 1.23 pounds of organic Polworth spun as singles. And this skein here is washed and finished, if the camera will cooperate. So this is sort of the washed and finished one. Sorry for the jumping there. I don't know why. I was trying to get it to focus, but it actually started recording. I spun this quite finely. I fold this, washed and fold it, and then I wanted to do a sample before I decided for sure that I wanted to use these in conjunction with the Northbound Knitting singles. So let me get rid of this, because I'm getting very confused about what I'm talking about. So this is the Northbound Knitting. I'll move it under the light a little bit better so you can see. So this was a combination of, it'll focus in a minute. This is a combination of gray, it's 2 braids of gray merino. I showed it to you guys last time, and I don't think I have the photos up here anymore. I took them down, sorry about that. So this is 2 skeins of gray merino, and let's see if I can get this to come on. Keeps jumping, sorry guys, but at least it focused. Yeah, so this is the gray merino, and this is the Northbound Knitting, and this was the 2 different colorways. One had the darker green, one had the reddy pink, but then they both had that tealy blue in there that you can see. And I spun that all as singles, alternating the braids as I went. And then the rest of this is all of the singles from the organic Polworth, they were all spun at about 24 wraps per inch. But you know, after washing and finishing, when you hold the yarn under a little bit of tension, it's more like 26 to 27 wraps per inch. So the result is that it makes a very, very fine fabric. Now, this is just off of the Zoom loom, so I can't do anything about the set or about the ends per inch or anything like this, but this needs to be woven quite a bit closer. But the purpose for doing this was just to see what would happen. Like what would it look like if I were to do one end, so in the warp of the northbound knitting with one end in the warp of the organic Polworth. So when you're warping, I would be holding one end of the northbound knitting and one end of the organic Polworth on the warping board as I'm warping, okay? What would it look like roughly? And then every single pick, so the weft, when you're placing the weft, you could do this on a rigid heddle, is just the organic Polworth, okay? So I wanted to see, like, if I want to continue with this and if I wanted to go to the next stage of actually starting to warp and actually doing some math and figuring out what my yardage is and figuring out like what, you know, how wide can my fabric be based on this set, and, you know, do I want to do plain weave, which I do, you know, and what does that all look like? And what I am modeling this off of is Jamie and the Jones's Confetti Sweater. It's linked in the show notes. Which is at the very top of the YouTube box, right below here. And I can link it here as well in the live chat, just so that you can see it. And that's what it is. It's one pick of color, one pick of white, and then the weft is all solid. It's hand woven fabric that they've used for that sweater and for that garment. So I've learned 3 things in doing this sample. First of all, I feel like the gray merino is a little bit dark against the white. It definitely brightens it, and it definitely makes it pop a little bit, but it is quite dark. However, I do like that sort of illusion in there. Let me get my teaching pencil out. I do like the illusion in here of this framing that's almost kind of happening around each end of the gray merino. So I kind of like that. And I should turn this because this is how it would be laying in the fabric. So because it would be one warp end of the gray merino, one warp end of the Polworth, one, right? So it'd be running lengthwise like this. Because it would be really hard to weave pick for pick. It'd be really hard to have 2 shuttles going the whole time. You know, pick of gray, pick of white, pick of gray, pick of white. It'd be so slow. So that gray merino, it really takes over. And even Dion's saying like the blue dominates the white. It really does. I mean, it really comes out. So that was the first thing that kind of made me pause. The second thing is that the singles are so fine. And they're, you know, like in this, they've really puffed up. I fulled this. I finished this yesterday. So I soaked it in hot water with soap. I agitated it. I fulled it. I threw it into the sink a whole bunch of times. I wrung it out to dry. I threw it down. And then I left it to dry, and it's really, you know, poofed up nicely and filled in some of those gaps, but it would have to be set a little bit more closely on the loom for sure. That said though, the singles on this they're quite softly spun. So I think if I was to proceed with this, I need to throw this back through the wheel again and tighten it up. Which I would rather learn now than when I'm warping. Because I think what'll happen is, I think structurally the yarn is fine until it sort of starts to, even though I fold it when I washed it, it's just not quite tightly enough twisted. Knitting, it would be fine, but the warp tension on a warp, even if it was on the table loom, I could see how, like, if it got caught on something, or if I was warping and I pulled a little bit too tight, it would just come apart. And it's not that you can snap it. It's not like if I pull at the 2 ends of the yarn that I can snap it easily. Like, I have to pull on it. Like, it's tight, it's okay, but I think as I was weaving with it and as I was like playing with it and whatnot, I could just see that it was going to, structurally, it just needed more twist. It just needed to be cinched just a little bit, just to make the stitches, basically just to make the yarn stronger. You know, and I was spinning singles. It's this that's the issue, not so much this stuff. It's this. You know, I was spinning this like I would spin singles to knit with, and you know, the reality is it's just not got quite enough twist, even though it's already been washed and folded. So that was the second thing I learned. The third thing, yeah, it'll tighten it. If I add a little bit more twist, that's a great question, Rebecca. Would it work to tighten it up if you've already folded it? Yes, you can still throw it back through the wheel. I'll make a center pull ball and I'll just, you know, feed it in like Judith Mackenzie McEwen does. She puts the uptake up quite high and just treadle on, treadle on, treadle on, and I'll do the same length. And I'll just feed it on, I'll probably put my woolly winder onto my rose, which is right here. I'll put the woolly winder on and I'll just do it quite quickly, and just, you know, wind it on. Pick and pick isn't so bad if you do need to. That is what I do more often than not, because I just pop on a long boring warp and play with the weft. You know, Amanda, that's not a bad idea. Let's come back to that. That's actually not a bad idea for doing pick for pick and alternating, because it would mean that on the loom, I could try this out and see what I think on a slightly larger piece. And then I can look at some of the other singles yarns that I have in my stash and throw them in and see if I prefer them. Because I have a lot of singles yarns. I was looking through my stash the other day and of yarn, not my fiber, but my yarn. And I have a lot of spun singles. I also have several braids that would also work for this project. So I thought that might be something to think about, is to maybe just find a couple of other braids that would maybe work a bit better. You know, maybe they're just a little bit more what I'm looking for, you know. The third thing that I learned was this set. So this was really helpful. The Zoom Loom kind of gave me this relatively open set, and you know, it's quite it almost looks like the yarn is really inconsistent because it was able to bloom in some of those areas because there was the space for it. But the fabric itself, like you know, it's got a lot of elasticity, almost kind of too much if you pull it on the bias there. You know, obviously it's very see-through. It's very lightweight, very airy. It makes a nice fabric, but it's not tightly set enough. So if the wraps per inch under tension are closer to 28 wraps per inch versus like 24 wraps per inch when I was actually spinning, that means that I need to go up quite a lot in my set. And this is plain weave. I've kind of eliminated doing like a twill or something. I really like the look of the plain weave for this. I think plain weave has so many options and so many opportunities. I even thought about throwing in some, like, you know, 1x1 or 2x2 lino to make like a hem at the bottom, so you could have like your hem, weave your header, your hem, and if you did a white warp, you could weave a white hem before you start your pick for pick alternating shuttles. I'm just thinking out loud, but you could weave your white hem, turn that, but then before you sort of get into the body of your fabric, you could totally do a lino at the bottom, you know, or you could do it at the top and make sure that that's where you cut your front piece of your sweater, and you've got like this really pretty 1x1 lino going across the yoke. I mean, how pretty would that be? So all these options and opportunities and whatnot. Lino is the type of finger manipulated lace, so you use pickup sticks to turn your to twist your warp so that you can create these really cool effects. But yes, this set has to be quite a bit closer for this, and so it was good to learn that and to see that right away, that the set needs to be quite a bit closer, and to make the type of fabric that I want to make. So that's kind of the next step now, is figuring out the yardage. How much of this white organic polework do I have? The other thing I thought about is if I'm really adamant that I want to use this, I could ask, I could phone a friend, and I could actually see if if Katrina or Felicia would be willing to help me to put a very light gray wash on this, and that would just take out that stark whiteness. So I guess I learned 4 things to take out that stark whiteness, to sort of, you know, make it a bit more cohesive and not quite so high contrast. I knew that this yarn was dicey at best for this, but I wanted to see it through so that I could see the sample before I went forward. So if you did pick for pick, it would change your striping so that it would be this way, whereas if you do it in the warp, it changes it and puts it on this way. So you can see how your stripes change direction. But because of that framing and how broken up it gets, it's actually not super, super obvious. So just more things to think about more than anything. The lino would look like a knitted picot hem. Totally, Christine. And you could even do that. Like you could do lino. You could weave the first part of your hem, do lino, weave the next part of your hem, and that could be your turned hem. Like that's where you could, just like we would on a picot sock, or, you know, so totally. Yeah. I think the contrast, Ruth says, I like the contrast. I think it's personal preference here. This is totally and completely individual personal preference. Some people are going to really, really like this. Some people aren't. And some people are going to be ambivalent. I feel kind of ambivalent. I kind of like it. I kind of don't. I'm somewhere in between. I'm Switzerland. So yeah. So that's ongoing. This skein and this skein have not been washed and finished. So these two need to be fulled. And I think this one actually needs to be tightened up a little bit. It was the last little bit of spinning that I had to do, and they need to be tightened up. So I'll throw that back through the wheel. I'll throw that through the wheel, and I'll wash and finish them again, and then we'll go from there. So and then Bob's your uncle, I guess. All right, let's go into community participation. We're getting on. The show's getting long per usual. So I will see you guys on the other side. So Charlotte had a really good comment to make. She said the woven sweater, so the confetti sweater, the actual woven fabric looks to be much thicker. And it's funny that you would say that, Charlotte, because I even thought about plying these. You know, they would end up being sort of roughly like 14 wraps per inch once they were plied. And I had thought about plying them and seeing whether or not I liked the effect, because I have some yarn that would go really nicely in another sample, just to see what that would do and what that would create. So I had thought about doing that. Bye, Amanda. Good to see you. Yeah, so we'll see. All right, so this is community participation, and I just want to say thank you so much to you guys for you know, sharing your photos, and for posting, and for being such active participants in everything that we do at Wool and Spinning. It really makes a big difference, and when I go to put all of this together, it makes a huge difference. So this is all of the alongs that we have going on in the community. We've got Zero to Hero that's ongoing. It goes through the whole year. You can see that there. Spindle Spun Stitches is going on until the eve of the fall equinox. And then, of course, we've got our ongoing breed and color study on the Radnor. Rebecca is also informally hosting the sock color study right now, which is wonderful. And there's threads in the Ravelry group as well as on the Slack channel for all of this stuff, which is listed there in the chart. So those Ravelry links, when you look at this photo in the Ketchup and Pickles post, the housekeeping post on Patreon every month, this gets published around the 15th of the month every month. Those are not live links. The links are down below. Patreon won't let me make sure that those are live links, which is kind of too bad. It's just the way it goes. All right, so we've got a whole bunch of Spindle Spun Summer, Spindle Spun Stitches, Spindle Spun Summer photos and stuff to share. So this first one is from Pam. She's been at a family reunion up at Kentucky Lake. Some people got COVID, which is really too bad, but she is so glad to have her drop spindle and fiber along. And look at her progress. Isn't that beautiful fiber? I love that oatmeal nature of it. It's just beautiful. Rebecca said she's been very busy lately, but her socks are getting knit, so posts are coming when she can get photos taken. That's awesome. This one is from Sam. Resistance is futile, be warned. I visited Rainbow Ange on Tuesday and had some playtime in her craft yarn. Yes, the orange craft room. I don't know if you guys remember, so Ange was interviewed on Wool and Spinning Radio a little while ago. I'll try to remember to throw the link in the show notes below for patrons of the community. And her craft room is orange. So it was really fun. She discovered which support spindle best suited her, and she went online when she got home and bought one. So congratulations, Sam. I hope you're loving it and enjoying it. So just have fun. And Sam was the one that was spinning on the train last time. So she's doing all sorts of fun stuff. Bye, Rebecca. Good to see you. She's going to pick up at softball. Yeah, the show's gone long today. This is from our dear friend Diana Twiss, she blogs at 100milewear.com. She's just a huge, just an amazing spindle spinner. Very prolific with her knowledge, very openly shares her knowledge with us. It's wonderful. She's always in the Slack channel helping people out. So don't ever hesitate to tag her. She's spinning in her sister's back garden and loving the transportability of spindles. Yes, totally. You didn't have to drag a wheel around. This is from Mary Jo. I love this photo. Look at all of those spindles. Last summer, I fell in love with support spindles, and the love continues to grow. I am spinning up fiber that was a Christmas present for my daughter on 4 different support spindles, testing them against each other to see what I like best. So far, no one spindle is winning. I love them all, and they all serve a different purpose. Each spindle also has a different prep, which will help me to decide the best way to spin this beautiful braid. That's from Hedgehog Fibers, that braid, and it's part of their club. And it looks like Mary Jo's done some different prep here. So she's done some, like she's just spinning it like from the top. She's got some row legs that she's carded up that look incredible. She's got some carded prep there. Looks like she's doing some different stuff. Yeah, I want that fiber too, Dion. The Hedgehog Fibers Fiber Club is incredible. If anybody's ever participated, it's awesome. And you only join for a very small period of time. I think you get 3 shipments, and then it's up to you to kind of do the next one and the next one. So it makes it very doable if you don't want to have one that's like an ongoing subscription. This is from Jan. I only included 2 of the 4 photos, but she's got four Turkish spindles going. But she spun up another row leg on each of her Turkish spindles. She will do the same over the next few days on her drop spindles, and she spun up a bit of the Corriedale on the wheel. But the bobbin looks pretty much the same way as the first one. So she's going to wait to photograph them. But I just thought the photo of her Turkish spindles was so inspiring, and there are 2 more that go with this. Beautiful spinning. This is from Laureline. I thought this was so much fun. She's having a lot of fun in Rebecca Metzoff's Summer of Tapestry class, where we are weaving tiny tapestries. And what does one need for tiny tapestries? Tiny spindle spun skeins, of course. I can just see Laureline saying this word for word as she typed it out, and it just made me laugh. So this is from her Jacob fleece, simply flicked and the colors were hand carded. She spun on her Hound Design spindle which was the first spindle that she purchased 10 years ago. Beautiful, Laureline, and thank you for sharing. This one's from Elizabeth. I love this photo. Look at those support spindles. Aren't they beautiful? The one, the Russian doll one, I know a lot of people have bought those over the last little while before the war in Ukraine started. And I had so hoped that I would be able to get one, but no dice because of the war. This is the second half of my Rambouillet spin. I've been spinning at least a little bit most days, and now I can't wait to apply this for my first support spindle skein. Amazing, Elizabeth. Make sure you share the skein when you're done. We'd love to see it. All right, and then the other big event that's been going on is Tour de Fleece. So Tour de Fleece runs from July 1st all the way to Sunday, July 24th. Like I said earlier, we don't really have a team per se, but we do have just an amazing group of spinners in our community, and people have been jumping on board and doing that. So that's been really fun to see people doing. And I just need my PowerPoint here to come back. Hang on, guys. Sorry, I lost it. And yeah, it's just been really fun to see. And like I said, next time we'll have even more photos of what people have been doing. So I can't read all of this, but this is from Eva. She's been spinning today she finished her singles and did all of the plying, and she put and I put my 4-ply I made on the weekend back through the wheel to get some of the twist out. So that's the photo in the upper right-hand corner, I guess. I love the two skeins next to each other after their bath. They aren't yet dry, but I feel like I will be happy with them. Then I prepped the next braid, a Cori nylon again, which is funny because I was just spinning a Cori nylon. And this time I had to split it lengthwise for color management, and it's kind of good to see that my instinct was right, that nylon really is too fly away for that kind of thing. I was covered in glitter. My whole room is covered in glitter, and I had prepped it with the intention of doing a cabled yarn, but decided otherwise, and we'll do a 4-ply chain ply the way Dagmar does them. Amazing. I can't wait to see the results, Eva. I think Dagmar's here today. She was in the chat earlier, and I said hello, I think, at the beginning of the show. So that's really exciting. This is from Brittany. Isn't this a beautiful wheel? So a couple of weeks ago, I was able to get a CPW. I had been wanting one for a while, but didn't think I would be able to find one close enough to me. Then I came across one 45 minutes from my house. She is gorgeous, fast, and in wonderful condition. That's really, really lucky, Brittany. I am new to double drive, so there was a little bit of a learning curve for her, but I named her Goldie because I tried spinning several prep methods before finding the one that spun smoothly. So she found one that was just right and she gobbled it up. I love that. Just like Goldilocks. The fiber is hand-carded Rolex of Cormo and Corriedale. What is it with Corriedale this week? And spun supported long draw. Beautiful, beautiful braid there, Brittany. And I made a center pull ball for plying and used my Kiwi. Gorgeous. Oh, not you, Dagmar. Different Dagmar. This is from Crystal. This is just really super fun. I finished my fireworks yarn late last night. It's a singles yarn spun from a done spun bat. Periodically throughout, I took tufts of Firestar and Angelina and trapped it within the yarn. So it looks like a burst of fireworks against the black sky. It's a delicate yarn for sure, and I'm nervous to give it a bath because it might compress the sparkle, but without shocking it, I doubt it'll survive knitting or weaving. If anyone has any suggestions on how to make this a more usable yarn, I am all ears. Regardless, it was super fun to spin, if only to celebrate the 4th with my own twist on fireworks. So much fun. I love the trapping of the Firestar. Hopefully once you wash it though, like that stuff is a bit stiff, like it's plastic. So it should kind of hold its shape. I hope. Yeah, report back, Crystal. Report back. If anybody in the chat has anything to say, like any suggestions, I'd love to hear. This is from Megan. I love these colors. I have been spinning for Tour de Fleece, and here's my first 4-ounce sample of Maple Leaf Rag BFL. It's a BFL from Three Waters Farm. 2-ply long draw, default yarn for more color work projects. Somehow I think I have 3... what's SQs again? Sweater quantities sitting in my stash that need to be knit. Lots of projects coming up, and I hope you are all doing well. Thanks, Megan. She always has like just the most amazing colorwork sweaters going, and she just posted 2 more colorwork socks and a colorwork sweater in the random channel because it was commercial yarn. Holy smokes, you guys, it's just incredible. Oh, that's a great idea, Becca. So she said for Crystal's yarn, Becca was suggesting cutting off a length of the yarn where the Firestar is and test out the finishing in that section. So just take that one section where there's Firestar and Angelina and finish it and see what you think. Eve suggested steaming it. That's not a bad idea, although I do often wonder when you steam Angelina and Firestar, I always wonder if it gets too hot, if you could possibly melt it. I don't know, but could you? Thank you so much, you guys. Thank you for sharing, and thank you for taking the time to share, because I know sometimes it's time consuming to take that extra time to take a photo and post it in the Slack channel or post it in the Ravelry group. And I really appreciate that you guys take that extra time. Super inspiring, Julie. Absolutely. She says it's just all so inspiring. I think that's why I keep going. Like even when I run out of steam and I kind of feel like that I don't have, I've got fluff in my throat, that I don't have anything that's really particularly that I'm excited about working on right this second. Sorry, you guys. I just, all these ideas that people keep sharing, it keeps bringing me back again and again and again. So thank you so much, you guys. Same to you, Eve. It's really good to see you guys. It's so good to be here and doing a live stream. It's been a while. I know twice a week just sometimes just doesn't seem like enough. Or sorry, twice a month, it just doesn't seem like enough. But for right now, where we're at in our life, it's what I can do. And I would rather do a little bit than nothing at all. So thank you so much for being here and for hanging out and for sharing all the things that you do. I hope everybody's continuing to have a wonderful month. I will see you here. And the next show will be August 2nd at, I need to talk about this. So the next show will be August 2nd, so 2 weeks from now. We have been streaming at 12 noon Pacific, which is 3 p.m. Eastern time. And I am very sorry, but I need to roll it forward to 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. The reason is that I was telling the girls this morning in Virtual Spin Group, every single show has been that between August 2nd through to like Thanksgiving, there's a conflict at 12 noon, and it's stupid stuff like inflexible dentist appointments for the kids, like really annoying stuff. So I'm very sorry to have to do that, but we need to roll forward to 1 p.m. Pacific. If it changes and if I can roll it back to 12 noon, I absolutely will, because I know for those who are in Europe, it's a difficult time because it gets that little bit later. Instead of 8 p.m. starting, it's 9 p.m. starting. So I am very sorry, but I will keep you guys posted if I'm able to roll it back to 12 noon. So next show, August 2nd, 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. in England. So thanks, you guys. Oh, 10 p.m. for Europe. Thank you. Sorry, Dagmar. 10 p.m. for Europe, 9 p.m. for the UK, and it's 1 hour later. That's right, Christine. So starting next Tuesday, next show, Tuesday, August 2nd. So, and I'll have reminders in the Patreon post and stuff. So it's not a huge deal, but if you put the live stream in your calendars and you keep track, just please make sure that it's 1 p.m. starting on August 2nd for the remainder of the summer and into the fall. And I am really sorry to have to change the time. I didn't want to change the time. I like 12 noon, but it just was causing so many problems. So I am very sorry about that. All right. I think that's everything. Did I forget anything? Probably. If not, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week. Happy spinning, happy knitting, happy weaving, happy just making things in general. Please don't forget to share with all of us. And until next time, stay safe, and I will talk to you later. Bye, everyone.